Hello, Pastor.
Ngoni, how are you?
No, I'm doing very well, Pastor. It's a pleasure to be back.
Sure.
And this time around, I have another interesting question.
Okay.
I remember last time I came, I had a question regarding the law, whether it was
Yes.
binding or not.
Yes.
And you answered and you said that the law was binding. But then tell me, Pastor, why do so many Christians of today still think that the law is not valid?
Okay. Yeah. Maybe I will say it's very unfortunate. And you are right to say so many. Because there are not a few who believe that the law is no longer valid. Maybe I should say it's because of two reasons that are quickly coming to my mind. The first one is to do with a misunderstanding of Paul's writings.
Okay.
Because any Christian who believes that the law is no longer binding, they are going to quote
Paul.
something from Paul.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but when you read 2 Peter chapter 3, listen to this one, very crucial, verse 15 and 16. And account that the long suffering of our Lord is salvation, even as our beloved brother Paul, also according to the wisdom given unto him, hath written unto you. Also in all his epistles, speaking in them of these things, in which are some things hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable rest, as they do also the other scriptures, unto their own destruction. So this is Peter giving us a warning. And he's saying you need to be very careful when you are reading Paul's epistles, because he writes with the wisdom that was given by God. Remember, Paul, of all the apostles, was one of the most learned, because he actually said, I sat at the feet of Gamaliel. And during those days, Gamaliel was the most learned tutor of that time, the most learned rabbi. If you were said to have sat at the feet of Gamaliel, you were not someone cheap. But remember, the Peters and the Jameses and the Johns, they were found fishing.
These were fishermen.
Those were ordinary fishermen. They knew nothing. And Peter is saying, please, as you are studying Paul's writings, be very careful. He writes with the wisdom with which he was given by God. And in some of his epistles, there are some things that are hard to understand, of which some people do twist them and wrest them, like they do other scriptures, unto their own destruction. So any Christian who wants to support the idea that the law is no longer binding, they'll never quote Peter. They'll never quote James. They'll go to Paul. They'll go to Paul and they say, Paul says in Galatians, Paul says in Romans, Paul says that, this and that. Yet Peter is giving us a warning. Another apostle is giving us some more serious warning. Please be careful when you are studying Paul's writings. So that's one of the reasons I would say why so many Christians believe that the law is no longer binding, because they are failing to understand Paul's teachings, especially in regards to law and grace. They fail to understand what Paul was saying, and they end up concluding that we are now free, we can do whatever we want, we need not obey God. God will save us somehow by his grace. Then the second thing, it's something which God himself had prophesied. Okay? When you read Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, Daniel was shown a certain power which will come up in the last days. He was shown it under the symbol of a little horn, but it was a power. And he says, verse 25 says, let me start from verse 24. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them. And he shall be different from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High. And he shall wear out the saints of the Most High. And he shall think to change the times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of a time. So Daniel was shown in the last days a certain power coming up which will destroy 3 kings. But as it does so, it then also does 3 things. Number 1, it will speak great words against God. Number 2, it will persecute the saints of God. Number 3, it will change the law and time of God. So it's a very prophetic thing. Your question borders on prophecy. Why are so many Christians believing that the law is no longer binding? Christ had already prophesied that in the last days there will come a power that will even change the laws of God and make people believe that the law is no longer necessary. I know you'll have a lot of questions about this little horn power. Please feel free to come back and ask. Yeah, because we really need to know who it is that will do these things. Psalm 119 verse 126 Says here, verse 126, it is time for thee, O Lord, to work, for they have made void thy law. So David is saying, oh Lord, you can no longer keep quiet. You cannot afford to keep quiet because
The law has been made void.
it has been made void. They are saying your law is now void. The Christians are the ones in the forefront to proclaim that God's law is now
Void.
And David saying, so God, stand up and act. You need to work. Let me conclude by reading 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, starting from verse 3. It's building up on the same little horn that we have read in Daniel chapter 7. Even during Paul's time, Paul also spoke about that very same power. That's why I was saying your question also borders on prophecy. 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 3 going downwards. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, which is the day of Christ, the second coming, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. The person who is going to oppose God will actually be found in the church. This is not someone outside the church. It's a church character, it's a church personality.
Yes.
Sitting in the temple of God, proclaiming that he himself is God. Listen to what he will do. Remember ye not that when I was with you, I told you these things. And now you know that what withholds him, so that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. And then shall the wicked one be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan. This man, his works are after the works of Satan. With all power and signs and lying wonders. Verse 10, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, so that they should believe a lie, that they may be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. So the mystery of iniquity is already at work. The mystery of lawlessness. That's what other versions would say. So this man is the man who works lawlessness. He's the one who deceives and lies to people that the law is no longer valid. And so many Christians, Paul is saying, these are strong words. Because they do not love the truth, God will send them a strong delusion so that they'll believe that lie. So many Christians have been deluded into believing that the law is no longer valid. It's so sorry. It's a sorry state. It's so sad.
It's a shame.
But that's the truth. There's no way God's government will be a government without any law.
It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. If you love me, keep my commandments. That's what Christ said when we were discussing the last episode. So it's very unfortunate people are either they are being confused by Paul's writings or they are following after the lying wonders of this power.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
Pastor, I want to thank you for shedding light on the matter. I hope that our listeners also get something from this.
You're welcome.
If I have any more questions,
Please,
I'll come.
Always do feel free.
Thank you, Pastor.
You're welcome.